I'm coming up on 10 years in my Superflat world this June. When I started this world, I was 15, going on 16, a sophomore in high school. And now I'll be 26 this June. Oh my god. It's really crazy to think about how long this world has been a part of my life. When I posted my world tour last fall, I had a few people asking me how long I'm gonna keep going. And the truth is, I have no plans on ever stopping. 10 years from now, I'm gonna be 35, and there's a chance that I'll have a 20-year-old Superflat world. So what am I gonna do in the next 10 years? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 105 of the Flat World. If you're new to the channel, this is my personal super flat world that I've been working on for a decade. These videos tend to be a little more laid back, a little more relaxed, and I like to show off my progress and everything I'm working on in my world. So we begin our episode over here by this map because it'll help us discuss all of our goals for this series moving forward. As you can see, we've got a great new addition to the map here, which is the mob farm hotel sort of thing that we built in the time lapse that I did for my 10,000 subscriber special. As of recording this, we're already at like 22K, so thank you guys again for all the support. It's been a crazy ride. And of course, you know, like and subscribe, all that stuff, help out with the algorithm. But anyways, when we talk about the next 10 years in this world, it's a little hard to imagine that far out because the last 10 years were not necessarily evenly distributed. If you take a look at these graphs here, you can see that early on I made a ton of episodes. In 2012, when I started the series, there were 29 episodes. In 2013, we peaked at 34 episodes that year. Then in 2014, there were only 15 because that fall I went off to college. And for the next 5 or so years, there were only 1 to 3 episodes a year. By the time I came back in 2020, sort of the meta of Let's Plays had changed a little bit. Back in the day, I would just kind of record and talk and show what I was up to, but nowadays I like to try and get a little bit more done in each episode. The game has just changed, and I think a faster paced episode style just is the meta nowadays. And so in 2020, I had 8 episodes, and in 2021, I had a total of 7. So all that's just to say, I don't know how much time it's gonna take to do all of the goals that I'm gonna lay out here. It's probably not gonna take the full 10 years. But the more I work on this world, the more ideas I seem to get. So I'm not worried about running out of ideas in this world anytime soon. So the first goal I want to put down here is to fill in the tower base. Now when I say this, what I'm referring to is this base that we're standing in right now. You can see that a lot of the parts on the bottom level feel finished. They're finished rooms, you can sort of walk from room to room, and it all kind of makes sense. But in other parts of the base, you can see the bottom of farms, dirt scaffolding all around, and it just sort of a giant open unused area. So what I'd like is for this whole base to feel all closed in like it does in certain parts, just so that the whole thing really feels finished and yeah, not like a permanent work in progress. The next goal is to finish all the terraforming projects. If you look at our map over here, you can see that we've started a giant mountain, a giant land archway. There's some spots at the back of these mountains that really need to be filled in. This all needs to eventually touch the ground somehow. And I'd love to do a little bit of terraforming over by this new hotel we built so that it's not just sitting in the middle of the ocean, kind of awkwardly. So all that terraforming alone is a massive undertaking and is probably enough to keep me busy for like an entire year. My next goal is to finish the harbor. That refers to this area of the world here, which is currently drained so that I can remove all the bedrock. Eventually, we're going to put in a seafloor there, terraform the heck out of it, build some really impressive ships, and just really breathe life into the whole area. I'm really excited. This goal is probably the highest priority at the moment. It's the next thing I want to get done. Another huge one is to fill in the entire city with buildings, marketplaces, shops, everything. So you can see that this little area of the city is pretty well filled in. I want that much detail and density to be all over this base. And that includes Salacia, by the way. We never quite finished off this project on the inside. There's a few buildings that just need to be cleaned up on the inside. Maybe we can move some villagers in. And also, I want to try doing a little bit of terraforming. I might be able to get creative with some glazed terracotta, concrete, and terracotta blocks to expand the coral structures, just because if we only use the coral the Wandering Trader gives us, it's pretty limiting. And I'd really, really like to try to build some sort of sea serpent in there. I've never really done much with organics, so I think that would be a really awesome way to start. Our next goal is to work on the Pirate Cove. I fly through here a lot, so you may have seen it, but I rarely stop here for very long. But eventually I want to utilize this gigantic space underneath this base in order to build an entire cave system full of mine shafts and coves and big stalactites. I would love if ships from the harbor could pull right in through this entrance into this whole underground city, basically. And while I'm here, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon. It's not something I mention very much. Part of the reason I don't mention it is because I don't have a lot to offer my patrons, as I do have a full-time job at the moment and I just don't have the time to work on any extra content. But if you want to get your name permanently into my world, the Patreon is the way to do it. And another perk I offer is the current world downloads. You can always go to the last world tour to find a world download, but if you want a more current one, you'll have to sign up for the Patreon. I want to shout out all my patrons, but I'm going to start with the new ones that we got lately. Leandro, Dean Zabine, and Apide. Thank you guys so much for the support. It really means a lot to me. And even though these other patrons aren't active anymore, I really want to give them a shout out too, because they really helped support the channel in the past. The Deviant Crafter, Riley, biggest shout out to him. He definitely really helped me run the server for a long time. Zach, aka Leon, Megan, Kevin Cody, Zanzathuri, and Rock Lee. Thank you all so much. You guys, seriously, it means the world to me. Eventually, I'd love to display these Patreons in an even better way in this Pirate Cove. This isn't the permanent way I want to display them, so that's one of the big incentives for me to work on the Pirate Cove, so that we have a better home for all of our patrons. And before we get to the last goal for the overworld here, I just want to add a couple quick ones. I really need to finish the interior of our nether base. And we've never really built a base in the end, so I want to build some sort of base in the end. And that brings us to our final goal, which is I want to build something on top of this tower. Ever since I first started this world 10 years ago, I've had a vision that there would be something on top of our main base, some main focal point for the entire city. But I've just never really had any good ideas, and I think part of the reason is because I really haven't developed the lore for the world very well. And so that's where I want to ask you guys for help. If you have any ideas on some of the lore for this world, you know, why do they worship spiders? Why is there a giant hotel over by the mob farm? Why was Salacia constructed? I would really love to hear your ideas for how we could begin to incorporate more and more lore into this world. I have seen one or two things on Instagram that I think could be cool as a focal point on top of the tower base, but I really want to hear your guys' suggestions in the comments, or you can join my Discord and let me know there. So guys, let's just take a step back and review. I want to finish the interior of our nether base. I want to fill in this tower so that it all feels finished and complete, finish all of our massive terraforming projects, finish off the harbor project, build some sort of end base, fill in this entire city, and that includes Salacia, work on the Pirate Cove, and put something on top of this base. Those are huge goals, and it's enough to keep me busy for at least a couple years. Maybe not 10, but like I said, the more I work on this world, the more ideas I get. But there is one last goal I have for the world, and it's actually something I want to do today. And that is destroy once and for all this outer wall on top of the base. I know, it's been here forever. It's iconic, it's part of this world, but it's time for it to go. Back when I first started playing this world, the block palette was so limited. I mean, not only were there just less blocks in the game in general, but I also only had access to oak wood. But things have changed, and I've become a better builder, and it's finally time for these giant walls to go. I was just sitting here staring at my city and imagining how much cooler it would be if these walls up top weren't here and they were all just different buildings and houses and markets out here. It would just look so much cooler. But guys, I will admit I am very partial to these buildings. When I first built them, I was insanely proud of how they came out. And so I think I came up with a way that we can sort of honor this still and keep a little piece of it still on the world. You see, I've got these cow and pig farms that sort of feed into my main base with underground tunnels. And eventually I'll need to cover up these little buildings with some other building, as is tradition on the Flatworld. And so I thought, why don't we leave at least this one bridge here, and maybe we can work it into some sort of building that will eventually cover up these two things. This build is basically symmetrical on all sides. We can just keep one of them. This is another great example, by the way. Look at the view we're gonna have of the Spider Cathedral once this wall is gone. So guys, I'm gonna do a little time lapse of that. Sit back and watch me destroy some blocks. Let's do this. Oh boy. I got carried away during the time lapse and wasn't paying attention and accidentally deleted this wall, which I said I was gonna leave up. But it's okay. I'll just rebuild it. I mean, I'm probably, if I turn these into a building to cover up the cow and pig farms, I'm probably going to strip it back a little anyways, maybe have it end like right here. So I don't know. Well, I'm just gonna keep tearing the rest of the wall down. Ugh. Wow, guys, what an insane difference this makes. I think it was the right decision for sure. Just look at the way that, as I was saying, we can just look at the Spider Cathedral now. We can just come right over here and look at Salacia without anything really impeding our view. And the one wall I did leave up gives me a really good idea of how this could look when I actually fill this top level in with all different buildings. It was definitely hard to let go, but I think it was the right decision in the end. Hopefully most of you guys agree. I just think it's so awesome that we can just look out at our world now without anything in the way. But guys, you might have noticed I've got glowberries in my inventory, and that's a new item to this update because in 1.18.2 we now have access to pillager outposts, mine shafts, and abandoned portals. This is a big deal. I mean, for the longest time it's just been villages on Superflat, and then strongholds were introduced in 1.16, but not this many structures. And I'm glad I actually held off on making a raid farm for as long as I did, because now it's going to be so much easier with the pillager outpost. But before we get to making a raid farm, there is a different farm that I want to make. You see, when I uploaded the time-lapse video of me building this structure, a few people pointed out in the comments that you can actually craft end rods, which I literally had no idea. How have I been playing the game for like 11 years and I had no idea about this? And so the crafting recipe is blaze rods and chorus fruit, and I really don't have a good farm for either. See, we used to have a good blaze farm back in the day, but then I reset my nether when 1.16 came out. So I really want to make a farm for each of those things, and I think I want to start with the chorus fruit farm, and I think up here somewhere is a good spot for it. The reason being is that we can have it directly feed into our super smelter to make the popped chorus fruit. So I found a little bit of a tutorial. I'm going to try and follow along, see if I can get this thing hooked in, and I'll update you guys on the progress in a little bit. Oh boy, well, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. You see, I went to go get iron from my old iron farm for the hoppers I needed for that chorus fruit farm, and it turns out I'm finally out of iron. I think the iron farm design I was using broke back in like 1.14, maybe even earlier. So I've been just living off that iron for years now. But those days have finally come to an end. It's time for me to build an iron farm, and I think I've picked out the spot for it here. So I'm gonna try to throw that together as fast as I can. Hopefully we can get through this. Alrighty guys, it's done. The iron farm is all built and it's looking good, man. This thing works great. It's a Gnembon design, but the tutorial was by Gecko, who has some really awesome tutorials on his channel. I was surprised to find that he didn't have that many subscribers, so go check him out. Link is in the description. This thing works super fast. We might even see an iron golem spawn here in the next minute or so. Maybe not. It might need to be nighttime, I can't remember. But anyways, this thing is like in my main base, so it should be running a lot of the time. We're gonna get a ton of iron. And so I really want to build some sort of path out here and sort of redo this area of the base right outside the main wall. And yeah, this thing used to be a horse ladder way back in the day, but it's broken now, so I may as well remove it and maybe I'll build a new one. I don't know, but for now I'm just gonna remove most of this stuff. And that way, in an upcoming episode, we can build some sort of way to get out here. But before I do that, I just want to show you guys that I've also built the Purpur farm now that I have enough iron to make plenty of hoppers. Although the tutorial was on Shulkercraft's YouTube channel, this actually is a design by Gecko as well, which is pretty funny. The rates on this thing are not super impressive, to be honest. I think it's like 120 chorus fruit an hour or something like that, but if I AFK overnight, it should be decent. The only issue seems to be that when I turn it on, it just keeps firing arrows, and yeah, I think I did the redstone slightly wrong. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot a little bit, see what I did wrong here. But I am pretty proud of the location I came up with for this farm because it feeds directly into the super smelter, and I can unlock this chest to basically send the items to the super smelter. So I can unload the chorus flowers and then flip the lever and all the chorus fruit will go get smelted. Not only that, but you gotta keep these dispensers up here filled with arrows, and I actually hooked it up with a hopper line to my arrow collection for the mob farm on top of my base. So while I'm just doing things around the main base, this thing will constantly be filling up with arrows and it should never run out in theory. Yeah, so basically this was the perfect spot for this farm, and eventually I'll decorate it and make this all look good in here, but not today. Anyways, guys, like I said, I want to tear all this stuff down, so I'll probably throw it to a quick time lapse. So out with the old, in with the new. Let's do this. Well guys, I think that's about all we have time for in this episode. We did get a deceptive amount of stuff done. We took down this outer wall, we took down the horse ladder, which I've just been meaning to do forever, and we built 2 new farms, an iron farm and a chorus fruit farm. I mean, that's no small task. And we've also got our goals for the future, so plenty to do in future episodes. But while I was writing out this to-do list, I remembered an older to-do list we did in a past episode when we first got to the end and reset our nether. So before we close things out, I thought it would be kind of fun to check back in on that. You know, it's never good to start a new to-do list without checking your old to-do list. All right, so I found the spot in the older episode that I was looking for. Let's see how much of these we actually ended up doing. We built a beautiful Enderman farm in the end, so we can check that one off the list. In this episode, we just made a chorus fruit farm, so I guess that's done. We haven't made a blaze farm yet, so we'll have to take care of that next episode, but we did do a wither skeleton farm. We have a piglin farm. We have a piglin bartering hall. We have a netherwart farm, and we do have a basalt farm, so the only other 2 on the list are the ghast farm and the warped crimson wood farms I guess we'll have to do. But hey, that's pretty good. Only 3 things left from this old list that haven't been checked off yet. So who knows, maybe next episode we'll take care of the blaze farm, maybe the ghast farm, although I don't know, that sounds like a lot of work. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate the support. You leave such nice comments. It's been really fun interacting with the community lately. But that's it for me. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.